All right. Okay. All right. Thank you for that time you've given me. Okay, so for those of us who are not able to connect on Zoom, some people have quite found it difficult to connect via Zoom. So let's get the link and share with them also. So in case anybody is unable to connect via Zoom. Okay, thank you so much for your time. So let's look at what charter is all about and then how to develop a charter. By the end of this section, participants will be able to appreciate the application of project charter and project management, list the components of a project charter, develop a project charter, and use a project charter effectively. So these are the things we expect that you should be able to do, or that you will be able to do by the end of this particular section. So let's move on. Projects need approval before they can be executed. So by default, one of the basic reasons why we need a charter is to get approvals to be able to go in for a project. All right. Okay. Thank you so much for that. So please let me quickly reshare my screen. I hope you could see my screen now. Okay, so projects need approval before they can be executed. So like I said the other time, one of the essence of charter is because we need the document to secure the approval. A project charter is a project planning document that sells the project to stakeholders and sponsors. If you're able to show its viability and return on investment, the work, we get the green light to move forward. So to do all of this, we need a project charter. Now, a project charter is the statement of scope, objectives, and people who are participating in a project. The statement of the scope of the project, the objectives of the project, and the people who are participating in the project. It begins the process of defining. It begins the process of defining the roles and responsibilities of those participants and outlines the objectives and goals of the project. The charter also identifies the main stakeholders and defines the authority of the project manager. Project charter assignment. It must explain the business. What's the purpose of project charter? What functions does the project charter do? It must explain the business need that leads to the project being taken up. A project charter must explain the business need that leads to the project being taken up. It also captures high-level planning information like the scope, assumptions, deliverables, and so on about the project. The specifics of the project activities are developed later in the project management plan. The project statement of work and the business case documents are a few documents that need to be prepared before we start working on a project charter. So you need first, as part of the inputs, the major inputs you need for developing a charter. You need the project statement of work. You need the business case before you could go ahead developing a charter. The project statement of work is a written description of the project's product, service, or result. The business case explains why a project is being undertaken, the problem it will solve, as well as the benefit cost analysis. So why then do we have a project charter? Why do we need a project charter for a project? Number one, it formally authorizes the project to commence. Now, if you commence a project without a project charter, there had been some legal perception to project charter that project charter can be written or unwritten. It can be written or it can be verbal. but by whatsoever means, there is something, there is a point where that relationship is created, and then the project sponsors tells the project manager, you can go ahead. So whether it is written or it is verbal, the project charter is what authorizes the project to commence. However, it is critical and crucial for us professionally to have a project charter. A project charter gives us the summary of the project in a glance. It gives us the summary of the project, what the project is about, who the project is for, who is performing the project, the duration, the budget, the high-level requirements, this high-level scope of the project, the expected deliverables, the stakeholders, and their roles. Those are the things expected in the charter. And the parties need to endorse their agreement to those arrangements made available in the charter. Okay. When a charter is given, it forms part, it can be used as a legal document. In case a project goes whichever way, you can use that to say, yes, we secured this permission, we secured that permission. Sometimes you hear things like award letter, okay, that this company has been issued an award letter. Now, a thorough award letter supposed to contain the project you're doing, the scope of the the statement of work for the project you're doing, the expected deliverables for the project, how long the project will be, and the expected expenditure, expected cost for the project. Okay, so you have the signature of the awardee, okay, giving the project, and then there is a place for the person to accept for the awardee to accept the project or not. So a project charter gives you that room for all parties involved to have their agreement. It creates common vision and shared understanding of the project. I think I just explained that. Empowers the project manager to lead the project, identifies the high-level objectives and scope of the project. Okay. Now, the other levels of objectives will be captured in the project management plan. Okay, but for the charter, we are just interested in the high-level objective, the high-level scope, the high-level deliverables. Defines what success will look like at the end of the project, gains support for the project by announcing it to the whole organization, ensures that key stakeholders are aware of the project, secures budget and resources for the project. It is also the charter that gives you the permission, that gives you that leverage to call for finance. With that award letter, you can go to the finance department of the organization that is awarding the contract or awarding the project to say, okay, this project has been approved, we need money for it. Okay. So it's also the project charter that decides how the resources would be, or that gives the project manager the permission, the authority to deploy resources. Okay, that's very, very important for us to know. It serves as a point of reference for the project team. It serves as a point of reference for the project team. Now, what are the major components of a project charter? Like we said, there must be a statement of work, the problem statement or the statement of work. Then there must be a business case justifying the need for that project. Then there must be a goal statement telling us what we're expecting at this project. Then there must be timeline, there must be high-level scope, and there must be team members. So statement of work, business case, expected deliverables or goal statement, then the timeline for these deliverables, then the high-level scope, and then the team members for this project. The team members here will have to do with the participants, the stakeholders involved in the project. Now, in writing, this is where I want us to pay attention now. In writing, these are the things we want to see in your charter, okay? In your charter. Number one is the project information. The project information here we comprise of the statement of work, location of the project. Then you have your business need or the business case, all right? The business case here, we outline the need for the project, okay? The need, the problem, or the opportunity the project is identified. It must be identified. Then you have the project objectives and benefits. The project objectives are the fillable aspects of the project. When I mean fillable, I mean they are the things that we can lay hands on and say, yes, this is a benefit, that is a benefit, that is a solution, right? Then you have the project organization. Tell us about the project organization. In this case, they call it the performing organization. So if your organization is the one performing the project, you are the one that is providing the project manager, or you're the one project managing the project, then you have to give us your company profile, right? Then you have the high-level project scope. The high-level project scope will definitely pick the major aspects of the project, the critical aspects of the project, okay? Then you have the high-level project timescale, the major timelines also for the major deliverables. Then you have the high-level project budget, not the breakdown of the budget, just to tell us the total budget for this project, and your key assumptions for this project, your project risks, and your success criteria. Now, you remember we spoke about OPAs and EFs, and I know all of the while we've been speaking about this, some of us might not really understand. Now, when you are developing this document, you will begin to see the need of those OPAs and the OPAs and the EFs. Okay, OPA, organizational process assets, and then EFs, enterprise environmental factors. Now, these two factors have a great role to play in deciding whether you will be the choice project manager or the choice project organization or not. And I will come to explaining these things one after the other. Now, let's take, for instance, these success criteria. Let's take these two dimensions of the success criteria. So the first one we take is the OPA, organizational process asset. And we said we can use SWOT analysis to do this, right? So the SWOT analysis, you have your strengths, you have your weaknesses, you have your opportunities, and you have your threats. Now, for the project owner, all you want to tell him about is your strengths in the project that can bring about the success of the project, and perhaps tell him the opportunities that this project could bring. And then let him know the possible loopholes, the threats, and then how you intend dealing with them. Now, I want to ask a question because we need to discuss here now. This is a very important area. If you were to do a project as an organization, okay, what will be your strengths in your OPA now? What are the things that will be your strength? Let's assume you have been contracted to supply educational materials, or there had been a request for expression of interest for supply of educational materials, and you have an organization. What are the things that you think will qualify your organization to be the best fit for that project? Looking at OPA first before we go to looking at other things. What would be the most impressive things that you would look at? So let me hear from us. There had been, I'm looking at from key assumptions to success criteria. So let's take, for instance, your OPA, organizational process assets. We've been mentioning it over and over again, but now we want to see it in practice, in reality. How do we use OPA? Now, I said, just imagine you went out and you saw paper, you saw tender journal, and in the tender journal, an agency, maybe Ministry of Education, has just called for an expression of interest from qualified companies to submit a request for information or submit an expression of interest. Now, what are the things that you think your organization will have to make you the most qualified with OPA in view? Can I have some responses? This class, I will really appreciate if we can end maximum by 6 p.m. That's just maximum of 2 hours. Okay, so that we don't, everybody will go and rest. Okay. Okay, so someone says competency. All right. So when you say competency is a generic word, so competency of who or competency of what? Please, let's feel free. You could raise your hand. I think I will actually appreciate if you raise your hand so that we could do this fast enough. Okay, so someone says a good knowledge of the educational needs and sourcing. No. Their need has been identified. So they say what they want is supply of educational material. Okay, and the educational material is books, but they need qualified companies to apply. All right, Mr. Casey, or say Mr. Lamin, please kindly omit. Let's hear from you. Mr. Lamin, can you hear me? You can unmute. Let's hear from you.
Hello, sir.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. First of all, is the competency of the company.
Sorry, I didn't get that. Hello, sir. Uh-oh. Seems the network is breaking from your end. I can't hear you. Okay. Mr. Lamin, please, in case your network bounces back, please feel free to raise your hand again, and we'll continue from there. Okay. Do I have any other person that would like to make some comment and contributions on this matter? How do you get your company ready for contracts? How do you get your company ready for bids? How do you get your company ready for tender? That's the question I'm asking now. Okay. If you are in Nigeria, there had been, okay, so number one, I'm seeing something here. Registration of the company. Yes, that becomes one of your strengths. So you have your registration, company registration, number one. All right, number two, thank you so much, Mr. Shegu. Number two, what else do you need? What else do you need? Hope we are not still hope we are done eating the Sunday rice. Hope we are done eating the Sunday rice, because it's like some of us are still eating. Okay, so I'm waiting. I'm trying to go straight to the internet and get some information. So I would not just have to just be reading it on my own. So I'm going to NDIC. NDIC is a government agency in Nigeria. So we'll look at the information they have there regarding what you need to know. Okay, because some of us just sit down and say, you must know somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody before you could get contracts in Nigeria. Well, I am not against that. I'm not against networking. I'm not against that, but importantly, we must be ready. Okay, so yep, I noticed that network threw you out. So you're welcome back, Mr. Lamin. So if you don't mind, the question is still available. So what would you want to say? I just requested for you to unmute.
So, yeah, what I was seeing is based on the competence of the company, because you look at the proposal first, then
Okay.
criteria will be set. So if your company has fulfilled those criteria, then you can apply for the contract that they are advertising. So
Okay.
basically, those are the most important things that
All right. Thank you so much. So primarily, if you are a contractor, for those of us that are not Nigerians, please, I would recommend that you take the time to search out for the requirements that is needed in your country to be involved in contracts, be it at private levels or corporate or government levels. Now, I would like to say categorically that for some organizations, it had become obvious that they follow government practice also in ensuring that best practices are met. In Nigeria, we have BPP that is responsible for telling us how we need to go about our contracts and all of that. So you could visit BPP website, or if you could see my screen, these are just the basic things that are mostly required. So if you don't have them, you need to start working on them because they form part of your organizational process assets, right? And your EEFs. So number one, you have evidence of company registration with Corporate Affairs Commission. Now, in the Nigerian context, when we say evidence of registration with Corporate Affairs Commission, it doesn't just stop there. You have your evidence of registration, which is your CAC registration. And then you also have what we call annual returns, your filing. Okay, you have your filing, all right? You have your filing. Then secondly, you have your valid certificate of compliance with PENCOM. So you apply to PENCOM. Now, before you apply to PENCOM, it is good you have a company pension account with any certified PFA, pension fund administrator. You have a whole lot of them in Nigeria, and I'm not going to mention them. So find the ones that are endorsed by government, endorsed by PENCOM, so that you don't give your money to the wrong people, right? So you could go to your bank and ask if they have a PFA. If they don't, perhaps they will advise you on which one to go for. Or you go to PENCOM itself. PENCOM will give you a list of all the accredited PFAs in Nigeria. The same thing applies. I don't know what it might be called in Cameroon. I don't know what the pension board might be called in Cameroon or Gambia or any country you're joining us from. But please try to get this information. Every country has a pension fund or pension commission. So get to that place and then they will give you the required information you need. Then another one is a compliance certificate from ITF. Compliance certificate from ITF. Okay. Then the next one is compliance certificate from National Social Insurance Trust Fund. And then you have your clearance, tax clearance certificate. Okay. Now these ones are basic. Okay. From 1 to 5, they are compulsory. Whether you're doing construction, you're doing goods procurement, you're doing service rendering, whatever thing you're doing as far as contract is concerned, you need all these documents. Now, you also need copies of duly your audited account, company's audited account for 3 years. Your tax clearance will be a report of 3 years. All of this compliance certificate will be on the evidence of 3 years. You must have existed, your company must have existed for at least 3 years for you to have access to federal contracts in Nigeria. Federal contract, please note, I said federal. I didn't say state, I didn't say local government, I didn't say private organization contracts. No, I said federal. If you must come to federal, you must have at least 3 years of existence. Now, if you have not started your company, I will recommend that you try as much as you can to start looking at starting a company and then start building up these things gradually. While you are hoping to enter into government and public contract very soon, just make the most of the opportunities and create value with the private sector, because they end up becoming the ones that will recommend you to the government sector. Okay. And they are also part of the government sector, don't forget. Okay. So if you have intention of owning a company, of which I recommend sincerely, there is nothing the government does not need. If you want to go into coaching and mentoring, there are a whole lot of agencies that are in need of coaches and mentors. You go to NDE, National Directorate of Employment, you go to Ministry of Youth and Sports, you go to Women Affairs, you go to National Productivity Center, there are a whole lot of them. So they need your services. You want to go into procurement of building materials, there are a whole lot of them that need that services. You want to go into production, there are a whole lot of them that want to do that. You want to go into youth empowerment, whichever one you want to go to, just make sure that you have passion and you have a vision for it. And then you start working towards it gradually. As it were, for every group of people like project management, my assignment is to motivate them well enough or encourage them well enough to own their own companies, and then work towards becoming public service contractors or public contractors. Because one of the benefits of being a public contractor is that by being a public contractor, the private sector believes that you are already the best of best. Okay, so it's easier for you to have a sweet sale if you have your right place with government. I used to tell people one thing: no matter how good you think your business is, don't do it outside of government. Get the necessary partnerships with government. And how do you get your partnership with government? Get your compliance certificates, get the necessary accreditations, get the necessary licenses, get the necessary registrations, and all of that. Okay. I was just chatting with someone few minutes. Even while in class, I was still chatting with him. Now he sent me an information of a doctorate degree that he wants to do with a particular organization. And I told him, I said, just give me a second. Let me check if this organization is even licensed in their own country. And then checking on that, I found out that they are not even licensed in the country. So I told the person that this organization is not licensed in the country. And then he replied to the organization. I think he was chatting both parties. He was chatting me and was chatting the organization at the same time. And he told the organization that, okay, from the list that your government said, you are not part of the licensed institutions in your country. And then the person said to him that they run international programs, that for the institutions that the government recognizes, they run local programs. And I was like, what kind of intelligent answer is that? So you don't have value in your country, your government does not recognize your existence, and then you want people outside of your country to recognize your existence. And then they were providing a whole lot of things. We are accredited by this, accredited by that. I said, I have no problem with individual accreditation, but the most important thing when it comes to services, if you must have government-based recognition, then you must have government-based licenses. And I told him, I said, if you have intention of becoming a lecturer, if you really want to become a lecturer, this is not the kind of PhD you need, because you finish that and come to Nigeria, they will tell you it's not recognized. And then you would have spent a whole lot of money trying to do that. Now, where am I going to? If that organization has gotten their license, maybe from their Ministry of Education there or whatever ministry that gives them the license, and then we see that, okay, these ones are accredited in their own country first, it will give us some kind of hope that, okay, even if it's not accepted in Nigeria, we can use the certificate in their own country when we get there. But it's not accepted in your country and you want to sell it to me, okay, and then I'll go to Ministry of Education tomorrow, they tell me I've just wasted 5 years studying PhD that was not going to be recognized. All right, so we need to all put these things in order. Now, let me give you an example of one of the things we've done in IPM. There is no place in the world today that you go with IPM certificate and they will tell you it's invalid. No, nobody can do that. Do you know why? Because we took the time to get first our national accreditations, all the national accreditations that we need to be recognized as a professional institution. We have them. And then we went as far as securing international accreditations, 2 from US, 1 from Canada. So it will become difficult. And that's why in all of our certificates, Everything you see there, all the things right there. Then at the foot of that certificate, you see that this certificate is accredited by, you mentioned we have like about 5 accreditations. Okay, we have about 2 in Nigeria, and then we have 1 in US and 1 in Canada. So if you take it to US, they already know this institution is accredited by this particular one in US. You take it to Canada, okay, this is accredited in Canada. You take it to, you bring it to Nigeria, obviously you don't need to have a problem with that. Okay, so in your own way too. Now, some of these things, I don't really like sharing them on YouTube because they are just personal things that we can just share with you one-on-one, but it's already going on YouTube, so let's just proceed. Now, before we go to that point, it actually took us a whole lot of cost, a whole lot of time, a whole lot of waiting. There are some institutions you will go to, they will tell you have to be at least 3 years before you come apply here. Some will tell you need to have at least 5 years. So we need to tell you need to have maybe 4 PhD, people that have four people in your team that has 4 PhDs. And then you keep seeing different dimensions of requirement, just to make sure that at the end of the day, we are sure that what you're giving is not just a paper, you're giving value. And government is also doing the same thing. So it is important that all of us follow these due processes. Okay, then another thing you need also is your sworn affidavit for your company directors. Okay, just to indicate that none of them has been convicted or they have been convicted for crime or fraudulent activity. Then you have your BPP clearance certificate, your IRR, your interim registration report. That's from BPP, Bureau of Public Procurement. Okay, then you have your evidence of financial capacity to undertake the project. This one most often is something you get from your bank. So after you've gotten the major documents from government and government agencies, then you need to go to your bank to seek for a letter for them to say, yes, anytime there's a project, we are willing to sponsor, okay, or we are willing to provide the funds. Then you have evidence of successful work done. That's where we'll now talk about all those things we say, lessons learned, historical information, work performance data. You need to let others know the level of what you've done. Okay, you need to have at least 3 years report of works you've done, indicating such things. So to get these things, to validate your proof or to validate your claim, you make proof, you provide your award letters or completion letters, or both. Okay, you provide your award letter and completion letter, okay, or both, and that would be a good mix for you. Then you have your company profile indicating all those qualifications. Somebody talked about competence. Yeah. Okay, you need to have your company profile indicating the qualifications and experience of your key staff. So you have your management staff, you have your technical staff. And that is where in handling projects or handling contracts, it is important to have at least project management certification, either associate level or foundational level. You must have evidence that yes, you have capacity. Okay, you have what? You have capacity, right? You have capacity in terms of human and non-human resources. So these are the basic things you need. Now, another important thing you must have, please listen to me carefully. Listen to me carefully. Another thing you must have is your SCUML, your EFCC clearance certificate. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I call it SCUML, XCUML. I think I've forgotten the full meaning of that. I've forgotten the full meaning of the SCUML, but I know the L is laundering. I've forgotten the other one. I know the SCUML is actually for anti-money laundering. Okay, so you get that also. After you've done your CAC, you have your MEMAT, you go to SCUML registration portal and then apply. And then you get your SCUML. With this, you will be much more ready for contract. Now, what this can do is that even if you don't have contract, you could have people who have opportunities. See, that place you now say is people that have, is people that know people. that get contracts. You just have to be ready so that those that know people, when they meet the people they know, then they will meet you that have the requirements. And that's where that experience I shared yesterday of the project is 50 million and someone is asking you to put an extra 50 million. Okay. That one is not called facilitation. But if you're not ready, the opportunity will pass you by. If you have a company at the moment, I will advise you, start structuring your company for both public and private contracts or public and private businesses. Don't just limit yourself to running a task for people or private organizations. One thing with public contracts is that when you are in, you're in, except you are the one that throw yourself out. When you are in, you're in. You don't need to give yourself too much pressure. The only stress you will have is just to get in. But as soon as you're in, you might be surprised that you might be in for life. So you're definitely okay. Any worst case scenario, I could get one contract from this ministry this year, even if it's 200 million or 500 million. And then with time, you see that the capacity of project being awarded to you keeps increasing. When you have built integrity, when you followed the project management principles that have been taught. Okay. I'm trying to be as practical as I can so that we can all be on the same page, because by the end of this program, you should actually be able to develop a proposal, develop expression of interest document, develop you should be able to go for tender bidding. Okay, you should be able to do that. Okay, and you should be able to know all the requirements for your project. It may take you a while, but you just have to start working on it gradually. If your company is up to 3 years and you don't have your task clearance, when you go there, they will tell you have to pay fine, you have to pay this, you have to pay that. You have to just pay it and get your TCC at least for the first year. Then when the other agencies will tell you the same thing, you have defaulted and then you have to pay. Just pay if you have the resources. I will not advise you to go and start a new company. That's if you have already existing company. I won't advise you to go and start a new company because you have a backlog of penalties and fines to pay. No, just find a way to clear them. Negotiation is important. Negotiate with the officials. Find your way out. Get your documents first. Don't stop renewing those documents. Whether you have contracts or not, don't stop renewing them. Because at the end of the day, some of these things still comes back to us. For instance, your PENCOM comes back to you. It doesn't go to government. Your ITF comes back to you. The only thing I think goes to government is just the tax, okay, which they are supposed to also use for us. But in Nigeria, except you're in Abuja, or maybe some of the cities that you see the importance of tax or see the benefit of tax to the public, but in some villages don't even know what is tax. So what are we talking about? Okay, so what brought me here was what? Success criteria. Some of the important information you need to have for you to qualify for a project. So don't just sit down there and say it is people who know people that get the project. Well, there is nothing wrong in people knowing people, but there will be everything wrong if you're not part of the people that know people know. Do you get what I'm trying to say now? Part of your networking, know the people that know the people that know the people. So that when the people that know the people get the contract, they will come to you that is qualified. It might not happen this year, it might not happen next year, but who knows? It might happen almost immediately. Okay. So these are some of the information you need. Now, do I have a question? I'm about rounding up on this because the next one we are going to be focusing on the full development of your proposal, the request for information, request for bid, and request for quote. We're going to look at them one after the other. Do I have any question? Any question for me? If you have a question, just raise your hand. If you have a question, please raise your hand. Raise your hand. All right, please, Mr. Lamin, go ahead.
Yes, so I have a question with regard to what you were just explaining. you know, the course is a PMP program. So being a professional project manager, so do you need to know all the procedures that is required to be in a company, or do you should know how a project, normally how a project management should run? Basically,
Sorry, sir, I could barely hear you. It's like you're putting on a headphone, so it's obstructing the communication. I could barely hear you. If you're putting on a headphone, can you please remove it so that I can hear you loud enough?
Hello.
All right, go ahead, sir.
Can you hear me now?
All right, no, better. Please go ahead.
Okay, what I was asking is with regards to the PMP program. So you know, like most of us who are into this program, we didn't know how a company is being set up, or is it that we you are showing us this to know how the company is set up, or how a project manager should think, or I don't know. I'm a bit confused about it. Could you please clarify that for me?
Are you a Nigerian?
No, I'm a Gambian.
Okay, you're a Gambian. Okay, thank you so much. All right. So funny enough, I'm a Nigerian, so I'm using the Nigerian context to teach. However, it's applicable across nations. Okay, it's applicable across nations. No, now the first thing I want to do with what the whole explanation first is to enable us, for those of us that don't have companies, to have the orientation to start up a company. But not just starting up a company that can serve. I have to mute you. It's not showing background. Okay, so starting up a company that can serve the government. All right. Now, whether it is government in Nigeria, in Cameroon, or in Gambia, there are always requirements for award of contracts. Now, for the one in Nigeria, I just gave the template from NDIC. NDIC is Nigerian Deposit Insurance Corporation. But the institution that manages public contracts in Nigeria is called Bureau of Public Procurement, BPP. Now, in Gambia, I don't know what it might be called. But when you go to that place, they will give you all the requirements that your company need to have before they can ever apply for any government project. Now, another thing I'm saying is, okay, in Gambia, you have GPPA. Okay, thank you. Now, another thing I'm saying is that there is this notion, not only in Africa, it's a global notion that for you to get any government, for you to get a piece of the cake from government, you need to know somebody that knows somebody in government, all right? And there is nothing wrong about that. That is part of networking. Now, what I'm saying is, some of us, even with the fact that we know somebody that knows somebody, we are not even prepared for the opportunities in case the person that knows somebody finally gets an opportunity, and then we need a company to execute. Okay, so what, in essence, I'm trying to say is that if we already have a company, let's make our companies contractable. All the licenses, all the registrations, all the endorsements, or everything, all the compliance that we need, let's get them and be ready. So you could search out from GPPA all the requirements for public contracts, and then make sure your company has them and be ready for opportunities as they come. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. Okay, the same thing applies to if you're in Cameroon, the same thing applies to if you're in Nigeria. Just find the basic things and make sure you cling to them. Okay, make your company contractable. All right, that's where I'm going. And then the other thing I'm trying to also say is that for those of us who doesn't have a company yet, it is an encouragement that we also need to get our own companies. Now, you might not be in the country's capital, but the country's project is not only in the country's capital. So you could look out for your national budget for the year and find out the contracts that relate to wherever you are, so that when there is call for expression of it, in fact, without call, by the time you identify the agencies, the contracts that are going to happen in your own location, you can quickly send your company's profile ahead, so that when there is need for consideration, they have a profile that they can easily consider. And then, even if they do not get back to you, just try as much as you can. Just be a compliant company. One day, you just find yourself hitting on a big contract that will help you recover all that you've invested in before time. Okay, so it's much more of being prepared as a company, prepared as an individual, prepared as a company, prepared as an individual for public contracts. All of the things we've been saying before have been on private, but now we are looking at public side of projects. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, sir. Mr. Fonbank, you are welcome to class.
Good day, everybody. Good day, sir. Yeah, sorry I'm coming late. I don't know if maybe what the question I want to ask maybe something that you have already tried. But anyway, let me just write. Yeah, this project charter, I don't know, is it generic? Because for example, you know, talking about an enterprise setting up a business, and you're running an NGO, a non-governmental organization, which deals with maybe migration aid and maybe development. I don't know if the charter, they have the same content. And then secondly, I want to find out the difference between a charter and a project proposal.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. And thank you for acknowledging that you came a little late. Okay, so the first question is, a charter, is it generic? The answer is yes and no. Yes, it is generic in the sense that the components of a charter, be it humanitarian project or non-humanitarian projects, is the same. However, it might not be completely generic for some organizations that may wish to add some information to the project. Okay, or add some extra things to their charter. But basically, the components of a charter is just the same. Okay, basically the components are just the same. All right. So if you look at what we have here, you find that there is no project that doesn't have all of this. Okay, you have your project information, your project need or the problem identified, the objectives, the organization performing it, the information about the organization. Then you have your high-level scope, your high-level timescale, your budget, then key assumptions to the project. Okay, now these key assumptions, not everybody might go into key assumptions, but it's good you have your assumptions so that the stakeholders will also know that you're doing your own thinking as well. Okay, so the key assumptions should suffice, but however, not every project charter comes with key assumptions. Okay, for instance, when you have government contracts, sometimes they don't come with any assumption, but you, as a project manager, need to put those assumptions into perspective and let them be part of your discussions. For instance, a HISOJ keeps talking about issues on time lag, because the project they've been doing happens to be government-enabled contracts. Okay, so, but when they are signing that contract, it might not be captured that, okay, some of these assumptions might be that there might be time lag, but you need to put that into perspective too. So whether you put them on the paper or not, they also need to be there. Then the key project risk, you also need to highlight them. And then the success criteria, like I've mentioned earlier, all of the things. You have your OPAs first. Now, OPA, basically you have your, please listen to me, listen now. Listen carefully, because this is important. You see, OPA comprises of Number one, your processes and procedures. So if you call it strategy, project execution strategy, you are not wrong. If you call it project methodology, you're not wrong. Okay, so there must be a strategy for use. That's part of your OPA. Then there must be policies and procedures, okay, to guide your project. Maybe policies and procedures on meetings and communication with stakeholders and all of that. Whatever thing you see as a key thing that needs to be considered, and there should be a standard developed for them. Why not develop the standard and let everybody be aware? Okay. Now you see your policies, your procedures, your strategies, or your methodologies, they have key role to play in determining whether you are the right choice person or your company is the right choice company for the project. Okay, so that's for OPA. Now for your EF, we said your EF, you have your PESTO, okay, your political, environmental, or political, economic, social, technological, legal, and environmental. Now let's put legal and political together. That's where we'll now start talking about all of these things I mentioned, all the compliance that need to be done, all the registration that need to be done, all the licenses that need to be done, you get them all together. Then the economic power to do this project is the one you get from your bank, or you have your funders who are ready to back this project up. Okay, you have evidence. Okay, then your social, environmental considerations. You also need to put up some form of approvals, some form of agreements with the project environment you're conducting your project with, or evidence of knowledge of the environment, okay, and the people within the environment. So all of these things forms part of your EF. Then your technology also, okay, the kind of technology you provide also has a way of telling us if you have the capacity to do it or not. So we have to put all these things in perspective. However, we are still moving forward, and we will look at the developments in total. This document here is a little, I believe you will see it. Now, this is a typical example of a project charter. So you see the project name, you see the project sponsor, date of approval, project manager, last revision date. Yeah, because why we put last revision date is because before the charter is approved, there must be series of meetings, review of the project statement of work, the review of business case before we could say, okay, we develop the charter. Then you have your project description, you have your scope, that's your high level scope. So if you look at this scope, it doesn't really tell you the breakdown of the project. Rather, it gives you a defined scope statement, the high level scope statement of what this project is all about. Then you have your business case. Then look at this. We didn't talk about this, but someone is bringing it up here. It's talking about constraints. We didn't look at them as constraints, but he's bringing it up as constraints. We rather looked at them as high level timeline, high level budget, high level scope, okay, and all of that. So the person put them as constraint, and then under the constraint, he has time, budget, scope, and quality. Then put the things he needed to put them. Then you have the project deliverables. You have the benefits of the project with your measurable results. Then here he broke them down into KPIs, baselines, and acceptable goals. Then you have your steering committee, you have your key stakeholders, and then you have your risks. So look at this, there is basically no place for assumption, all right? He didn't put assumption, perhaps everything is definite, so there is no need for assumption. But look at the other one. Here you have your project name, you have your project description, project objectives, success, how will I put it now? Definition of success for the project, you have it there. Then you have your project participants, their title, their name. And then you have available resources, milestones. You have potential risks, you have approvals. So you see, different people with different styles. But if you look at it critically, you still find that the basic components are just the same. If you look at them critically, you find out that the basic components are just the same. How many people are looking at my screen right now? If you're seeing project charter example on your screen and you're looking at it carefully, please can you type 5 in the chat room? If you're looking at the screen and you're seeing the 2 examples of a project charter that we have there, please type 5 in the chat room. Okay. Thank you for seeing it. Now, we'll provide this charter, these examples in the Google Classroom. Now, someone may wonder, why do you keep referring to Google Classroom, Google Classroom, Google Classroom? Okay, so one thing about the Google Classroom is that if you join the Google Classroom, except you are the one that exited yourself, nobody exits you. And then all the information stored there in the next 50 years, if Google is still alive, you can easily retrieve them. We are not too conversant with sharing information on WhatsApp because your WhatsApp can crash tomorrow. In fact, our own can even crash, and then we'll now try to get back to the WhatsApp. But with the Google Classroom, it's not like that. So there is durability. Now, one thing about it too is that you could do your program now. Maybe there are revised editions for the next batch or next, you still receive the material. So any money you're paying now, you receive the material forever. Any edition, any revision we are doing, you don't need to pay any other thing. You just keep receiving it. And you can always go to Google Drive, get your document. So you see why that Google Classroom is important. Okay, and these templates get to be there. Now, if tomorrow we have another better template, I was okay, let's review this template and we update a new template. Why the newcomers or the people currently running the program are having the new template? You also, that is an old member, will get the new template, review it with the old template you've been using, and then decide, should you use it or not? Most of our project management programs and every other program, you see old members coming back to class just to refresh their minds because they still keep getting the information. And some might not have the time to come, but at least once or twice in a year, you see them come to a program and find out the difference. Like when we started this year, for the fact that Project Management Book of Knowledge, the 7th edition was new, we had a whole lot of the old members who came to the class, but they didn't have to pay anything. They just came to learn for free. Okay, that's part of the whole thing. So if you are going for the materials, you get these things for life. And then for every other update, you still get it. All right. So that's why we keep mentioning the Google Classroom. It's not as though there is a discrimination between Google and WhatsApp. No, WhatsApp has temporary storage. Google has, at least to some extent, sustainable storage. Okay, so that's why we choose to store up all collaborative information. We use the Google Drive so that you can easily access it any day, anytime. All right. Okay. Now, do I have question on this data of a thing? Now you have a template. You can easily know how to fix all the information all the grammar we've been speaking since. You know how to fix them in a template and then use them. Okay. Any question from you? All right. Mr. Fumberg, your hand is up. Please feel free to unmute and let's hear from you.
Okay, thank you very much. I asked a second question on the difference between a project charter and a project proposal. So from the project, from the charter that I'm seeing in front of me, I think it is a charter gives just it's straight to the point picture of how the project looked like. And for a project proposal like the one I've been doing, is more detailed. It's about the 12-page document that really expatiates what is on the project charter. So I don't know if you can throw more light.
Okay. Thank you so much. Sorry, I skipped that question. I don't know how I skipped it. Okay, so a charter is just an authorization document. After the parties involved have agreed, if you look at this, it just gives specifications to the project. It defines the boundaries, the length and breadth of the project, and everybody pens down their signature that, yes, this is what we want to do, and everybody goes ahead. Then the proposal gives you the detailed information on how to accomplish the things in the charter, and that is the next place we are going to now. So the next thing we are going to be discussing will be proposal development. Now we've talked about charter. First, remember we started from talking about project topics, how to come up with project statement of work and all of that, business case, project planning. And then we went to developing timelines, developing budget and all of that. Okay, so now all of those things, want to put them together. So your charter, all of the what they call it now, statement of work you develop, stakeholder register that you develop. Remember all those things we were doing about 2 weeks ago. You just want to compress them on just a sheet of paper. And I don't recommend charter being more than a page. I don't recommend that. Some people still have charter that is up to 4 pages, 5 pages. What is then the essence of it? You're giving the person work. If your charter is 4 pages, how much will your proposal be? That means your proposal will not be running in hundreds of pages. A charter shouldn't be that voluminous. It gives you a snapshot. Well, I say it is the resume of your project. Let me use that word. Just a snapshot of your project. Okay, so it shouldn't be that voluminous. Okay, and please note, a charter is not a concept note. Okay, however, we are not looking at a concept note here, but a charter is not a concept note. So we also understand it. Okay, so someone said like an abstract. Okay, so if you wish to call it an abstract, no problem, but just know that what you're seeing on your screen is a typical example of what a charter looks like. So if you call it an abstract, you're not too far from it. Okay, you're not too far from it, but it shouldn't be, for me personally, I don't recommend project charter being more than 1 page. Okay. Okay, the high level time scale here just gives you the major points that your project will be delivered. Okay, so if your project is 24 months, you say it's 24 months, that 24 months is a high level time scale. That means at 24 months, we're expected to deliver this project. Okay, now, if this project has specific points at the 24 months that are critical, we could also refer them as high level. So we can say at month 4, there is a major deliverable expected. At month 10, there's a major deliverable expected. At month 20, the major deliverable is expected. Then month 24, we are rounding up with everything. So you've given us also high level time scale. The time scale, the timeline is just the same thing. Okay. Please, is there any other question for me? Is there another question before we go to the next one? Just a summary, tips in writing project charter. Okay, so excellent says, so ideally charter should not be more than, I said not more than 1 page. You're telling me 3 pages. What do you want to do with 3 pages? Are you writing thesis? A charter ideally should be just 1 page. So if you want to use CorelDRAW, if you want to use CorelDRAW or Photoshop, Adobe, for them to, is it Adobe, what do you call it? Adobe Photoshop, yes. If you, whatever you want to use, or you want to use Excel, but just make sure you're not giving the person reading it a whole lot of burnout. Okay, so 1 page is enough. If it must be 2 pages, let it just be 1 page, and just maybe 1 page and just a little flow of in the second page, not that you give a full second page. Okay. But this is just an example. So capture any of these examples and use. None of this will exceed a page. If you use CorelDRAW to make your designs, it won't exceed a page. It won't exceed an A4 page. If you use Excel to do this, it won't exceed an A4 page or A4 paper. So please, let's reduce the load of information, but at least let's capture the high level information needed. Okay. Please, while I'm rounding up, if there is any other question for me, please do let me have them. Now, tips in writing project charter, I said, writing effective project charters comes with experience. However, it is possible to write good enough ones early on by following some advice from professionals who have spent their careers learning how to write great project charters. Now, number one, keep it brief, be explicit, and build it with your sponsors. Keep it brief, be explicit, build it with your sponsors. Keep it brief, be explicit, and build it with your sponsors. Now, any question? In the presence of absence of question, please now, I think it's good we start coming down to realities now. Now, there's a whole lot of work that has been done. Yeah, we've given a whole lot of time for everybody to do. All the people that have been in this class, we've done our best to carry everyone along. But please, you see this next assignment that will be given, all the groups we've developed before, we will dissolve all those groups, right? Because today the project will be over. We'll be done with the whole training. We will form another group. So if you make your payment, we'll put you in a group. Now, in the next group we are putting you, if you people choose, if you fall in the same group and you choose to carry on with the project you've been doing before, no problem. But you see this one, this is the one you're submitting to us. And we can only mark for those who are for the certification programs. Okay. So when you get into your group, you are to develop a charter for your group project. Each group doesn't exceed 3. So we break them down to three groups. So each group doesn't exceed 3. Now, for the sake of those who were unable to make their presentations, please, we don't have all the time to be dragging. Come and do your presentation or not do your presentation. Any other pending presentation, please, we'll give it as a waiver. We know that you did it well, so kindly learn from it. The next presentation we'll be having will be by next weekend, after which we'll have our mock test. The people that are permitted to present are those going for presentation. And please, from next weekend, it is only those who make payments that we can only allow in class, because the class now be essentially for those preparing for exam, so that we'll put them through, right? Okay, so the group work is prepare a project charter for your group. This is part 1A, part 1A, for project work, part 1A. By the time we are done with proposal, your part 1B will be to develop the proposal of this particular charter to develop. And then you have 5 minutes to make that presentation. So you're going to be we're going to put you through a tender process. You're going to defend your charter. And then we have a 360 degree appraisal, and then decide on the corrections. And then you go putting it up better for use in your own business and career. Okay, so that's just that about charter. And I think we've learned something. So let me quickly go back to the objectives. So the first one is that we should appreciate the application of project charter in project management. So if you did appreciate the importance of project charter, please kindly type 1 in the chat room. You think you understand project charter, please type 1 in the chat room. You think you understand project charter, please type 1 in the chat room. You understand the use, please type 1 in the chat room. Okay. So for those of us that have not seen their 1, is it that they did not understand it? Okay. Then number 2, components of a project charter. So can we quickly in the chat room list at least 1 component of a charter? 1 component of a project charter. Can we list at least 1 component of a project charter in the chat room? Or if you raise your hand, then I will open it up. If you raise your hand, then your mic will be open. So there should be high-level scope, there should be project objective, there should be high-level time scale. Please note, it's not just scope, but high-level scope. high-level timescale. Okay, then objectives, problem statement, thank you, project participant, right? High-level scope, right? Thank you. Okay. Okay, so the next thing says developing a project charter. Okay, so with the little we've done, let me not say 100%, but thank you, success criteria, thank you, scope. Please, I said high-level scope. Don't forget that, high-level scope. The business case, thank you. All right, now with the little we've done, if you are confident that if you have the template, you can actually develop okay, just rate yourself on a basis of 1 to 5, where 5 is the highest. Rate yourself. At what level do you think you are? Rate yourself on, if you're given a project to develop a project charter, okay, rate yourself on 1 to 5. So rate yourself. So I have 4. If I have the template to, oh my God. Okay, so I have 3. Some people have been very, very honest. Okay, somebody say at this point, without much ado, I don't want to deal with myself. I will take 3. Okay. Okay. So let me ask, what do you think we need to do differently that can give you the assurance that you can get it at least 4? For those of us that have 3, 3 is a good mark. That's like if on a scale of so 3 will be what? With 3 be 3 will be 60, right? Yeah, 3 will be 60. 60 marks, 60%. Okay, so what do you think we'll do differently or we need to do differently? Is there something I need to do differently to help you understand it better? Okay, so part of the things we need to do is the group work. So that one is one. But apart from that, is there something you think I need to do or we need to do to get it, at least let it come up to 4? Let's have 80% at least, or 3.5, which is 75%. Is there something you think we need to do differently? Is there something you think we need to do differently to just help you get a little better? The 60% is good, but a quick revision. Okay, I don't understand what you mean by a quick revision. Actually, if I look through the template again on my own, I can reach for. Okay, so let me take you to the template so that you look at it again, so that you reach for, please. Okay, so please, these are examples of the templates. So, okay, so someone said, I think familiarity and practice will suffice. All right. So what then do we owe ourselves? We owe ourselves the responsibility to go and practice and practice and practice and practice. And for those of us who are going for certification, please, we must go through your charter, and then we'll tell you. You're going to present it anyway. So by the time you present, grouping with those who understand well will help. Okay. At this point, we might not be able to know who understands well or who doesn't understand well, but 60% mark is a good mark for everyone. That's like a C. That's a C. Okay, that's like a C, right? High level C. Okay. All right, thank you so much. Can we quickly go to proposal development? Now, my proposal development slide is not, it's just a guide. So it's not on PowerPoint, rather, is on Word. So we titled it Project Bid Documents. So let me make my screen bolder so that you could see. So we titled it Project Bid Document. Now, for projects, for contracts, or for project bids, there are basically 3 documents. After the project charter, there are basically 3 documents. You have the request for information, RFI. You have request for proposal, RFP. You have request for quote, RFQ. Request for information, request for request for proposal, RFP, and request for quote. Now, just as their name implies, one is for an expression of interest. So if they say, send us an expression of interest, what they are basically asking is your request for information. Okay. Now, what are the things contained in a request for information? You have your company summary, your company vision, mission, and core values, your company governance system, like your corporate structure. Okay. Then under that corporate structure, you need to tell us about your management team, the way the organization is structured anyway, right? So you let us know who are in the management team, who are in the technical team, based on structure, okay? Then you have your company services, your company infrastructure and assets, company experience, relevant work done, company personnel. In your company personnel, please tell us your management team and your project team. And if there are other support staff, please tell us and what they are going to do. Then provide us with all evidence of your compliance, accreditations, licenses, and partnerships. So this is what we need in your request for information. Expression of interest is basically what we need. Before I go forward, do I have any question here? Any country you are, this is the same everywhere. If you're in US, you're in Canada, you're in Nigeria, you're in Cameroon, you're in Gambia, you're in Libya, you're in Bahrain, you're in which other country was represented? You're in Togo, Cote d'Ivoire, no, not Cote d'Ivoire, which other? Benin Republic, you are in UAE. This information is the same. The only thing that makes the difference here is how the creativity that the people bring in designing this, designing and arranging the template for this information. So some just type it and bind it and send. Some have a brochure for it with good designs and send. Some do it on website, e-copies and send. Okay. All right. So someone is asking me a question. What is a project bid? What is a project bid? So let's throw it open to the house. So what is a project bid? What is a project bid? We're opening it up to the house. Open it up to the house. What is a project bid? Somebody asked the question, so let's help him out. If your hand is up, I will unmute it. What is a bid? Whether project bid or contract bid, what is a bid? A couple of us have been handling projects now. So what is a project bid or contract bid or natively bid? Okay, Lamin, please go ahead.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Lamin, please, if you can hear me, go ahead.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
A document used to defend purpose of contracting. Okay. So
can you hear me?
Okay, go ahead, sir.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Okay. This is a document prepared. It's a document prepared for seeking for looking at a contract, because normally these are documents that are prepared when you are looking for a contract. So that's what they normally refer to as a project bid document. So
okay, thank you
these
so much.
Documents that are.
Sorry, your network keeps breaking. Okay, sorry about that. But we got what he's trying to say. The project bid project bid documents used for securing contracts. Now, basically, we have the project bidding, which is the process of selecting suitable contractors for a project, suitable and qualified contractors for a project. The project bid itself is the document that is being verified to check the suitability of a contractor. So when we talk about contract bid, your part of your contract bid, you have your request for information, request for proposal, request for quote. All of them are part of the whole project bid document, and they are part of the bidding process. Okay, all right, thank you so much. Now, let's go to the next one, which is on, I hope my screen is still there. Today I'm so happy. I'm very happy today. I'm very happy today because we are finally rounding up this course. The lecture section of this course, we are rounding it up today. Okay. When we do free programs as this, most often we don't often engage our facilitators because we don't want to run into debt. Okay, say we did a program, we've not been paid. Meanwhile, we actually did a free program. So whenever we're running free programs, the heads of departments are the ones that get to be at the brunt the most. Some of them get to teach from beginning to the end, and it's all sacrifice. So we need to appreciate them. Now, the second one, as part of our project bid document, is your request for proposal. You see this request for proposal? You see that OPA, where we talk about methodology, policies, procedures, and then you can break down all the scope the way you want it. That's where you do that. And that's where you prove that you're highly competent for this project. Now, what do you do in the request for proposal? Please listen to me now, because I know in the other set, some people repeated some things. You see, this request for information, company executive summary gives you the introduction to your company and everything your company do in a snapshot. You see this place we have introduction, right? Please, we are not looking for you to introduce your company again as you register with this, your license with that. No. What we want you to introduce here is the project need. We want you to introduce the project. Give us or show us that you understand the project that you want to undertake. That's what the introduction gives us. The introduction gives us the overview of this project. Let us know to what extent you understand this project. Then you have the second one, the rationale, the business case. Tell us the problem and tell us the need for the project. The rationale, simply the justification why this project should be done. So you could take introduction to mean statement of the problem, right? Tell us the problem. Business case, tell us the opportunity. The rationale, tell us the opportunity in this problem you just identified. Be it for us as a business, as individual, as an organization, as government, as a community, society, tell us the benefit factor in it. Then the next one is your project scope. You see that your project plan you designed, that project plan you designed, just copy it and paste it here. You see that project plan you designed, that one we designed that we forgotten. Some people refuse to make their presentation, of whom we have effectively congratulated for passing project plan design. That project plan, anyhow you did it, just copy it and paste it under your project scope. That template is what we need here. Then you have your project objectives. However, you may need to arrange these things properly because I'm seeing now that some of them are not well arranged. So the project objectives actually need to come before the project scope in order. So you have your introduction, your rationale, your objectives, you have your stakeholders, you have your project methodology before you now talk about your scope. All right, I think it will be better organized that way. We've talked about project stakeholders. So that same template of your stakeholder register, copy it and paste it here. We've also talked about the project methodology approach. In the project methodology approach, you have to tell us which of them you are using. Is it the development approach, quality assurance approach, stakeholder approach? You see, this is where that project management plan, where we say the project management plan provides us the overall information. You see, that information, that methodology, this is where we now need it. What is your methodology for stakeholder management? What is your methodology for communication? What is your methodology for execution? What is your methodology for quality assurance? What is it? You need to tell us your methodologies. Let us know, all right? Then you have your project breakdown structure. The place we have project scope here, since we already have a high level scope in the charter, I will not suggest you have high level scope here again. But if there is need, you can have your high level scope here. But else you can match your project scope with your work breakdown structure inside, because your work breakdown structure is actually inside the scope, right? So you can merge the two of them together, all right, instead of separating them. That would be duplication of work. Then you have your project duration. By the time you're done settling your project scope or your work breakdown structure, of course, your schedule comes with it, your project duration comes with it. And then your project budget also comes with it. Your project risks also come with it. Okay? And then the last thing there, you have your reference or capability statement, rather. Your reference or capability statement, those evidence of work done, you can also bring them back here as part of, to prove that, yes, you have done this before, and then you can do it again. Okay, do I have any question here? Do I have any question here? Do I have any question here? If there's anything you don't understand, let me know. So your request for proposal, you have your introduction, you have your rationale, you have your objectives first, you have your stakeholders, and then you can bring down your scope. Or perhaps you can even deal with your methodologies first before you go down to breaking it down, so that you have all the space below to deal with the work. So you could have your methodology after your stakeholders, and then you can then bring down your scope. Your scope on the template we've been using, your scope, time, and budget with risk, they all in the same template. So you may not have need of breaking them down differently, except you're using a Microsoft Word or a word processing document, a word processing app like or software like the Word, Microsoft Word. Then you may have to break it down. Okay, or you use tables. Okay, so this is that about proposal. And then the last one is request for quote. Sometimes some organizations will tell you, send us your expression of interest or your request for information. You send that, they go through it, they say, okay, let's get to know what you can offer. Send us your proposal, you send the proposal. You say proposal without financials. You send your proposal, which is what we refer to as the technical bid. So we normally say that the contract bid bidding process is divided into two. You have the technical bid and you have the financial bid. The technical bid comprises of your request for information and your proposal, while your financial bid comprises of your request for quote. Now, what does your request for quote deal with? Your request for quote definitely will cover your project scope, because the project scope is where we are going to extract the work to be done, and then that's where we're going to place resources and costs and all of that. So you need your project scope, and then you can place this on the table. You have your project scope. On the scope, you have your resources, you have your schedule, and then you have the cost estimate for all of this. And then with all of this, you can have a cost baseline. With the cost baseline, it is always good you add your management reserve. Okay, add up management reserve. So if your project is 15 million, you could decide to do 10% for management reserve, 20%, dependent on the risk factors of the project, all right? Then please ensure to add your statutory obligations, your tax, your stamp duty, for those of us that do development levies and all of that, put all of them there. Okay, if you're into construction, please, it's good you add all those things there so that you don't keep going to and fro demanding money from your this thing. And then finally, you have your final budget. Now, the last one there is the budget financing. Some say mobilization, some say budget financing or project financing. Now, in your project financing, you need to tell us how this money will be disbursed. Do you want it 10, 30, or 10, 40, 50, 20, 30, 50, 50, 50? Just tell us how the best way your company can accept it. So your cash flow, let it be made known. Okay. And men and brethren, if you're able to do this, note each document must contain the project title and or the reference number. If it is a contract, they will give you a reference number. If it is not a contract, please always ensure to add the project document and your company name in each of the documents you're presenting. All right. So this is where we are going to call it a good time. If I answer all your questions, then we all can go and rest. And we start looking out for exam mock test and all of that. Okay, so I'm seeing a question in the chat room. It says, okay, thank you so much, Christiana. Sincere appreciations. Lamin said, what is the difference between project bidding documents, request for proposal? No, RFI, RFP, and RFQ, they are, in fact, including charter, they are all bidding documents. They are the documents you need for the bidding process. So bidding documents are not separate from all of this. Your bidding documents include your charter, your request for information or expression of interest, request for proposal, and request for quote. So if you remove the request, we have expression of interest or your company profile, then you have your proposal, and then you have your financials or your quote, bid, what do you call it now? Bill of quantity. Okay, thank you. Now, another question says, in order to, let me get that question well, in order for us to get the proposal writing right per se, so is it possible, okay, for you to put up the right guide while uploading it on Google Classroom? We already have the guide in your front. So what you need to do is do your work and then present. If we have issues, then we can tell you, okay, this is how it's supposed to be, or that is how it's supposed to be. But for everything you need to know about project proposals, we already have them in your front. Okay, so if you, these are more of like templates. So if you feel each of these sections and while presenting, we feel, okay, this one, maybe you misunderstood it, or you did not present it right, we'll let you know. Like I said earlier, the last batch, under the request for proposal, under introduction, they were introducing their group and introducing their company. Meanwhile, we already have company's information here, so we don't need that again on request for proposal. Rather, what we need in the introductory part of it is the introduction to the project, being able to give us conviction that you understand the project. Okay, all right, thank you so much. I will take only 2 questions, if any. I will take only 2 questions, if any. Then we'll take our attendance, and then we can call it a good time. Please be reminded that our exam comes up on June 11th. That's 2 weeks from now. Next week or next weekend is our mock test. So please, for the payments needed, for those going for certifications anyway, for the payments needed, please ensure you make the necessary payments, and then get your materials, read as much as you can, ask us questions, take your mock test, prepare for the main exam, okay, and then you're good to go. And please, your project work, we will sit down with you. We will sit down with you on your project work. We don't have problem. See the way you've been sitting down with us. Your project work, your defense, we will sit down with you and just make sure you get it right. So someone is asking, when is the next batch coming up? We'll keep you updated. Just make sure you're in the WhatsApp group. When the next batch comes up, we'll let you know. Okay. And please let also be guided. It's not every time that we say our training is free. Okay. The last batch of people, their training was not free. And I think they were about 25 in number. It was not free. They paid before they entered the class. And amazingly, the last batch, I think their training for offline was, I think it was 150 for those that were in class. And then those that were online, they paid 100,000. Yeah, I think that was the fee. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. So it's not always that we say it's free. So it's our choice to determine when it's free or not. Okay, and it's not always that it's $65,000 or $179. Okay, thank you for your understanding. So I think I can stop all the recordings because I'm done. I'm just going to take questions. Now ask me all your questions. Ask me all your questions. If you're on YouTube, sorry, we're going to stop the streaming now.